I brought old photographs of powerful historical leaders to life, not just to show their faces but their destinies. This is Alexander II. It feels as if he already senses the end of a great era approaching in his eyes. You can see the entire tragedy of the Romanov dynasty. He was the grandfather of Nicholas II. Isabella II, Queen of Spain, was crowned at just 3 years old after the death of her father, King Ferdinand III. Her reign began in 1833, making her the youngest monarch in Spanish history, though she faced numerous political conflicts and uprisings throughout her life. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, despite being paralyzed from the waist down due to polio at age 39, led the United States through the Great Depression and World War II. He was elected to 4 terms, more than any other U.S. president, and became a symbol of resilience and hope for the nation. Vladimir Lenin led the Bolshevik Revolution, establishing the Soviet Union. His policies and leadership laid the foundation for communist rule in Russia, though his tenure was marked by civil war and political repression. Known as the Iron Chancellor, Bismarck unified Germany through a series of wars and diplomatic maneuvers. He was a master strategist who maintained peace in Europe for decades through a complex system of alliances, while also laying the foundations for the modern welfare state in Germany. Pedro II was the second and last emperor of Brazil. Known for his intelligence, progressive thinking, and long reign of nearly 50 years, he abolished slavery in Brazil in 1888 and supported science, culture, and education. He had no idea what the future held in this photo. John F. Kennedy is just a Harvard graduate, not yet a war hero, not yet a president. Just a young man at the very beginning of a remarkable journey. Mao Zedong was the founding father of the People's Republic of China, and its first chairman, holding this position from 1949 until his death in 1976. His leadership was marked by significant social and economic reforms in China, including land redistribution and the nationalization of industry. Theodore Roosevelt became the youngest U.S. president at 42 after President McKinley's assassination. He was a progressive reformer, conservationist, and advocate for the Square Deal, aiming to protect consumers and regulate corporations. Joseph Stalin was one of the most significant leaders of the Soviet Union. He led the country until his death in 1953, marking the end of the early Soviet period and overseeing major political, social, and economic changes. Charles de Gaulle led the Free French forces during World War II and later became president of France. He restored national pride and reshaped France's political system with a strong executive branch. Harry S. Truman authorized the use of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, leading to Japan's surrender in World War II. He also initiated the Marshall Plan to rebuild Europe and establish NATO to counter Soviet influence. This is the 33rd President of the United States. Leon Trotsky was a key figure in the Russian Revolution and the founder of the Red Army. After losing a power struggle to Stalin, he was exiled and eventually assassinated in Mexico by a Soviet agent. Woodrow Wilson, the 28th President of the United States, led the country through World War I and later proposed the League of Nations. Though the U.S. never joined his vision, laid the groundwork for today's United Nations. Chiang Kai-shek led China's nationalist government and fought against both Japanese invasion and communist forces. After losing the civil war to Mao Zedong, he retreated to Taiwan, establishing a separate government there. Mustafa Kemal Ataturk was the hero of Turkey's War of Independence and the country's first president. He transformed the former Ottoman Empire into a modern secular republic, abolishing the Sultanate and Caliphate, introducing the Latin alphabet, reforming education, and granting women the right to vote. Charles Stewart Parnell was a powerful Irish political leader who fought for home rule in the British Parliament, known as the uncrowned King of Ireland. He united various Irish factions and led the Irish Parliamentary Party to unprecedented influence before his career was cut short by scandal. Maximilian I was installed as Emperor of Mexico by French forces in 1864, but his liberal reforms and European background alienated both conservatives and liberals after French troops withdrew. He was captured by Republican forces and executed in 1867, becoming a tragic symbol of foreign intervention. Tokugawa Yoshinobu, the 15th and last shogun of the Tokugawa shogunate of Japan, he tried to modernize the shogunate and avoid conflict, but growing pressure from imperial forces led him to resign in 1867, ending over 260 years of Tokugawa rule. Herbert Hoover, president during the start of the Great Depression, was once known as a great humanitarian, but his presidency was overshadowed by economic collapse and growing public discontent. Nasser led the 1952 revolution that overthrew the monarchy and became the second president of Egypt. He implemented socialist reforms, nationalized the Suez Canal, and promoted Pan-Arabism, aiming to unite Arab nations under a single political and economic framework. Ho Chi Minh was the founder of the Viet Minh and led the fight for Vietnam's independence from French colonial rule. As the first president and later prime minister of North Vietnam, he became a symbol of resistance and the key figure in the struggle to unify Vietnam under communist rule. Haile Selassie was the last emperor of Ethiopia, reigning from 1930 until his deposition in 1974. He is remembered for his modernization efforts, his role in the establishment of the League of Nations, and his leadership in the Pan-African movement. He is also revered as a messianic figure by the Rastafarian movement. David Livingstone is best known for his extensive explorations of Africa, including his search for the source of the Nile River. He spent much of his life in Africa, where he worked to spread Christianity, abolish the slave trade, and map uncharted territories. Nikita Khrushchev became the leader of the Soviet Union after Stalin's death, overseeing a period of de-Stalinization and reforms. He famously confronted the US during the Cuban Missile Crisis and promoted the space race. His leadership marked a significant shift in Soviet policies.